Hello and welcome to Colour Multimedia Enterprises. My name is Luke, also known as Tienry, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at setting up our animations. So this is probably going to span quite a few episodes for a few reasons. A, we're doing everything from, well, not from scratch, we're going to do everything purely from OpenFL with the exception of adding signals for events, for custom events, but apart from that we're just going to be using everything with OpenFL in order to create an RPG game. And in this particular tutorial we're going to take a look at animations, we're going to set it up. It spans quite a while just setting up the first initial part of this particular tutorial, just actually printing one state onto the screen with no events to actually moving the player around or anything like that. We're not going into that, but we will be taking a look at being able to put one state of a player onto a map. That's what this tutorial is about mainly. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so as mentioned in the introductory video, what I am going to show you in this tutorial is how to provide the player class. And we're going to use the player class to do a lot of different things, such as animating the player on the screen, being able to move the player in the world map and dungeons and all sorts of different stuff like that. And obviously we'll have things like battle systems, but before we go any further than that, we do need to get the basic infrastructure of what pretty much every single unit, let's say, is going to have in this game. So the very basic mechanic is every single character is going to be a unit in some way, shape or form. So I'm going to create a class with a name called unit, as you might imagine. And in this class there's going to be a few basic features. So all in a role-playing game, normally you have health, so that makes sense, right? So I'll put in health, and we'll make that a property. We'll just make it a get instead, and that is going to be an int, and then we're going to take max health, which again is going to be get a null, and this is going to be, let's say it's going to, what was I going to think? What was I thinking? Oh yes, I'm not going to be doing that, because the idea behind the unit is it's going to just provide us with some standard information regarding every character in the game. So obviously we're going to have health. Another thing that we're going to have, let me just quickly finish this off. Just going to make that an empty function for the time being. And what I'm also going to do is provide metadata, which starts off with the @ symbol and then the colon, followed by the value, or whatever this is. So this no completion basically means make whatever is after this not part of a completion method. So when we use IDEs like Flash Develop, for example, what I want to do is make sure that this function cannot be seen outside of this class. If I were to type get health, I can see it anyway because I'm within the class, I'm within the actual class itself. But if I were to create a unit outside of that class, for example, so if I were to say up here, for example, I say var u, which is a unit, right? And that's going to be equal to a new unit, right? If I were to then do u dot, I cannot see that now. I cannot see that private function. So that's why I need to use that in order to demonstrate that you can in fact see it without it. Let me just get rid of it, save it, and go back in here. And when we do u dot, we will be able to see. Oh wait, no, we can't do it like that. It can only be done from a derived class. Let me do it a different way. So if I were to create another class, for example, which we will do anyway, so I'll just create player, right, which is going to extend unit, which is where everything else is going to be. So if I were to do get health, I can do that, right? But if I were to go back to what it was before, and I try typing it in again, should do it. Maybe it only applies outside of this. Private is say, god damn it. I don't know. The Hex compiler is a bit confusing. Obviously, this metadata must only apply outside of the scope of this project, of the project itself. So you learn something new every day. So the metadata no completion at no completion only applies outside of the scope of this library. So if I were to create another project, for example, and I wanted to use RPG tutorial to create an RPG game, I wouldn't be able to see that get health when I start typing in unit.get health. I wouldn't be able to see it. I will still be able to actually call it, but I won't be able to see it. I know, Hex is a bit odd in that regard. But anyway. So, oops. We're going to do another empty function for the time being. So, no completion gets, max health. Again, we're just going to have that an empty function. Okay, so in every unit we've also got attributes as well, such as stamina, strength, that sort of thing. But I'm not going to actually put it into the unit itself, because we might want to actually use the attributes on other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another class, and I'm going to call it attributes. And in here, I'm going to have a variety of attributes. So I'm going to have strength, as I mentioned, which is going to be an int. I'm going to have stamina, which again is going to be an int. Oh god. I'm going to have strength, stamina, agility. So we'll use agility to determine whether or not that player can use its turn or not. If it were a turn-based game, which it will be. The next stat, let's say, is accuracy. So determine how much critical strike is available. Let's say knowledge is how much, or what we could do is use attack power, which modifies the amount of damage that we might deal. And then we also use something like spell power, let's say, which modifies the amount of damage spells deal. So this will modify melee damage, that will modify spell damage, as you might imagine. So I'm not going to make the system too complex. Knowledge, so like intellect in World of Warcraft, it modifies the amount of magic that you have, and also magic power, let's say. So let's put magic there as well, and we'll leave it like that for the time being. Okay, so let me just quickly do some we don't need the private functions. What am I doing? So now that what I've done this, what I'm going to do is in here I'm going to say public var attribute, which is going to be a get null, and this is, you guessed it, an attribute or attributes. There we go. So when we create this unit, we're going to say attr is equal to new attributes, right? And because of the fact that this is null, in fact, what am I doing? Because of the fact that it's null, we're going to need to initialize it. So when we get this, we're going to say have a private var, and this is going to be attr, and of course that's going to be attributes. So in order to initialize it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if attr is equal to null, then create it, right? And then we're going to return it. So basically what we're doing here is we're creating a property which is going to access this variable here. Obviously you would otherwise be able to access it regardless unless you put no completion there, even though that makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. So yeah, I don't understand hikes. Maybe someone out there can identify to me why you would want to use private functions or private anything, but yeah, it's there for a reason. It acts more like the proper protected keyword in languages such as C#. Which means that, as you saw earlier, when you actually instantiate a unit, can't actually access any of the private modifiers within this class. But if you extend it, you can, like so, get attr, get health, get max health. Now we're not going to do anything with these attributes just yet, because obviously we haven't actually gone on to creating the combat system yet. But the one thing that I would like to show you is actually animating the player and actually having the player be able to move about on the screen onto our tile map. So we're not going to do anything to that tile map because we know what we want, because we've done that. So what we need to do first is create server. So when we access attr for the first time, it's going to initialize it, which is what we want. So once we've done that, we don't need to do anything else. Instead, what I want to do is now create a new class which is going to contain animation. So the animations in this game is going to be very simple. It's just going to be a variety of sprite sheets. So we're going to take control of the tile map, tile sheet feature here. So in here, in animation, we're going to take a sprite sheet. So it's going to be very, very similar to tile map, but not exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take bitmap data, right? Because we need bitmap data in order to be able to create our animation. This is going to extend bitmap, because that's all it's going to contain. It's not going to be interactive in any way. We don't need an interactive animation. That's kind of pointless. But what we will have is a variety of different states, right? So we're going to say public var states, and that's going to be a map, which is going to take string and also an array of int, right? The reason we're going to use an array is because when we access this string for the first time, the first value in that array is going to be the still part of that image, and when we move our player around, we're basically going to say, okay, animate this state and loop through the array, if that makes sense. So, what we're going to do, first of all, what we need to do is actually provide the super bit. So we're going to provide that, put in the bitmap data here, and in fact, that's probably not a good idea, because we're going to be adding it a bit later. So, I'm going to super that, and we're going to, obviously when we take the bitmap data, we will be able to then do what we need to do with it. So, similar to how we did the tile map, we're going to take a look at loading it using a tile sheet. So, let's use a private var tile sheet, and I am going to initialize it. New tile sheets. That is going to take a bitmap data here. Then we pass in. Oops. Okay. So after we've done that, what we want to do is we want to initialize it. So we're going to say public function init, and we're going to take a path to we're going to take a path to let's get rid of that, we don't need it. So when we initialize it, what we want this animation class to do, we want it to provide us with all the states that we require. Okay, so when we initialize it, we want to read that path. So let's say it's a JSON, which it should be anyway. So we're going to use JSON functionality. Let's say var contents is equal to assets, and obviously we're going to need to import that. Import assets. That one there. Going to get text from that variable. So let's say we're going to get the contents of what that JSON is going to look like. So let's just provide an example in here for the time being. New JavaScript file. Let's say player animation JSON, right? And that's not what it's going to look like. So in here, what we want is a few properties that defines what this animation is. So we're going to have a variety of different states. Let's make this an array actually. It's going to be an array of states. So the first state is going to have a name, and let's say it's going to be walk up, right? And then we're going to say we're already providing the image, we don't need to do it. So in here, what we want to do is we want to provide the states. So we want to say, okay, so this state is going to have an animation, or indexes, whatever you want to call it. In this case, it's just going to be an animation, which is going to be an array. And let's imagine that we have, let me just get paint.net just to show you a bit better what I mean in your own time. very much. So when we have this unit or player, we're going to have a variety of images or sprite sheet. So let's just make this 320 by 320 for the time being, right? So we're going to have one tile in the corner here, which is going to be index 0, right? So this is going to be index 0. The next column over is going to be index 1, right? This is going to be index 2, etc, etc. Now, if I remember correctly, I go back to let's just open File Explorer. I do have images somewhere on, which disk was it? It was this one, OGA, I think. Yeah. RPG sprites, was it? Yeah, that's fine. Or was it these ones? Oh yeah, there's a lot more here, but we'll use these at some other point. Yeah, there's I've got I did grab quite a few things from Open Game Art, as you can tell. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste these into the project here. So I'll just put in some sprite sheet animations so that you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to say sprite sheets here, paste those in here.